Our next presentation is entitled Save Time and Effort with Advanced Continuous Delivery. If you are wondering what that means, I was just catching up with our presenter backstage, and he was telling me it's all about automating as much things as possible and so that we can reduce the errors that go into codes. So essentially, when the robots come for all of our jobs, you can blame Francis Fernandez. Thank you. He will be out in just a minute.
Hi, everyone. I'm Francis Fernandez. I'm with the Enterprise Systems Integration Middleware team at UITS, and I want to talk about continuous delivery, some of the things that we've added on to the continuous delivery process to make it work for us. And if you're entirely unfamiliar with continuous delivery, what it basically is just a process in which delivery of software is automated all the way from when it gets checked into version control to when it's deployed to your users. Like the image you see here, work would place the form donuts, and then they automatically are going to get baked and glazed and sent out to where they're delivered to customers, all with minimal human interaction. They just have to supervise it. But it's important to know continuous delivery is a process. So you can add onto it the things that your team needs. Like in the image there, there's a glazing apparatus. You don't necessarily need that to make donuts, but if you're making a lot of glazed donuts, you're going to want to automate that. I'm going to be talking primarily about software development, but a lot of these principles can be applied to any deliverable you're responsible for. It's really just about looking at what you can automate, the tasks that you're repeating over and over. And that's really the reason that we got into it, is because we found we were losing a lot of time to our release prep. There were a lot of steps that were either entirely manual or they required significant human intervention. And when you do that, you're introducing places for human error when you have to do something over and over again, or you're copying things from one place to another, and it just becomes automatic, but you, as a person, are going to forget to do something when you're automating it, you won't. So real quickly, our process, we use something called Git flow to do our software, which means our version control system is centered around this develop branch. When a developer wants to work on a new feature or a bug fix, they create a feature branch. They iterate on that for a bit. When they think they're ready for it to go out to a test, it gets code reviewed, goes into our develop branch, which goes out to our testing environments. When we're ready to do a release, we cut a release branch down on the bottom right, and then the version number gets incremented. It goes into the master branch. That goes out to production. That new version number gets back into develop, and we just repeat this over and over. So each one of those little icons on the transition point represents a place where a human actually has to do something to kick off or initiate that process. But with the automation we have, we got it down to just a few keystrokes or button presses to make that happen. And each one of those branches is automatically tested, inspected, and all that. So we repeat this over and over again. It's like a treadmill. We'll just do it over and over. And but we don't have to put in a ton of work, so we get to be like this cat and enjoy the benefits of that treadmill without having to do anything. And that is my requisite cat picture for the presentation. So let's go into a little bit more detail about what happens on any given branch. We automatically test every branch on every push and every commit, and we do it automatically because developers are going to forget to do that. And I say that speaking as a developer. I know you get locked into working on your feature. You are working on the test for that feature, and you kind of forget, that what you're working on has implications in the larger code base. So we want to automatically test everything because it increases not only the confidence in your end product, but you want to also, as you're developing, we test these feature branches so it increases your confidence as you're developing. And unlike if you had a test suite that was failing on test or production, it's not an all-hands emergency to get that development branch going again, or getting it green or fixed or whatever, but it does give you an indication of whether or not you're ready to actually go to that next step and do that code review. So we use github.iu.edu, which is available to everyone at the university. And when you merge the code from one branch to another, in the GitHub world, it's called a pull request. So when you initiate a pull request, it notifies our team, and it automatically triggers a code quality inspection. And we use SonarQube for that, and that gets us things like style guides and best practices. There's a lot of different software that can do this. Find what works for your team. It's always customizable, too, so find the rules that work for you. So if I were to check in something, initiate a pull request, you can see, while our continuous integration software is running and doing that build, it can't actually be merged in. So we can't put anything out to our testing environments unless it's gone through these safeguards and gone through these checks. And it looks like I didn't actually run all those tests. So, and if I had had a code quality issue, we would actually get a comment right in line that tells us what's wrong and where, so the developer can easily go in and fix that. And the scripts that we do to do that are available in that project at the URL on the bottom of the screen there. And so I go back in, and again, you can see that can't be merged in. That button's disabled. So I go in and I fix my test. It turns green, and now it can go into that develop branch. And it's going to automatically get deployed out to our testing environments within the hour. You could also deploy to your production environments, but there's probably going to be some differences there. You're going to definitely, well, not definitely, but you might deploy to your production environments slightly less frequently than you do your testing environments. But as you gain confidence in this process with the help of all that automated testing, you could start deploying to your production environments almost as much as you do your testing environments. Probably also want to do some additional testing there, some smoke tests, which basically check, is the server responding? Are endpoints serving actual content and not error pages? And really, what automatic deployment sounds scary, but it's really about actually reducing risk. When you are doing this automatically and when you put these safeguards in place, you can feel more comfortable doing a deployment. It's like a game of Risk where at the beginning of your turn, you get to deploy out your units as you see fit. And you want to cover as much ground as possible. But you don't want to spread yourself too thin, or else you find yourself fighting on like 75 different fronts, and it just collapses. You can't hold it up. So you build up small contiguous areas and build up until you're secure in that, and you kind of spread out from there. And that's what this is. You want to get really comfortable with your testing and automated deployments, and then move that into production, and hopefully you'll feel comfortable doing that as well. So once we've, another thing we do with our deployments, we do rolling deployments, which is really just as simple as making sure your deployment scripts bring up and ensure that one instance of your application is up before they take down and deploy and bring up the next one. And benefits of that are for things like APIs. You're getting no interruption of service for your consumers. Web users, they're going to lose any unsaved data because they're going to lose their session when the application restarts. But you can look into session caching. There's a bunch of tools for that as well, things like Redis, et cetera. But if you're looking for something to Google, that's a place to start. So like I said, we've got everything out in our testing environments. We're ready to do a release. And the way that we used to do this was basically taking our binary, putting it on a remote server, letting the admins know, and then hoping everything went well. But just like an archer doesn't close their eyes and fire at random, they practice a series of steps, and they do them over and over until they're practically automatic. And that's the thing that we're going for, because you're not going to get a bullseye every time, but your shots are less likely to go way far afield, and you're going to get way more hits and misses when you practice these things and do it to the point where it's almost just automatic. So we fully automate all of our releases. Everything is version tagged and released to our master branch. And with that, we get semantic versioning. So our patch increments happen automatically. If we do a major or minor change, we do that automatically. So we're making that choice to when we know we're going to make a breaking change. And then we also deploy our documentation automatically. And that's just another thing that gets our consumers the latest information. And it's just another step that we don't want to have to forget to do. But like testing, it's something that requires an actual human to make decisions about. Is your documentation good? Is it written well? So it's a place, we're automating a lot of stuff, but there are still places where a person has to make decisions. And it's really about automating what you can and leaving human decisions for things that only a human can actually decide. So that is everything that we're doing right now, but there's so much more we could be doing. We'd really like to improve our packaging and deployment infrastructure. We like to get started with Docker, because once we containerize our applications, we have a lot of latitude to do some cool things, like ephemeral environments. We can bring up, if somebody commits to one of their feature branches, we could bring up an environment, run automated functional testing, which simulates how a user interacts with an application in a browser. And then as soon as that suite is done, tear down that environment. It's not there anymore. Right now, we can only run functional tests in an automated fashion on our deploy branch, because that's what has an environment associated with it. We'd like to improve our pipeline, because right now, getting started with a project, our biggest hurdle is all the manual steps that have to go into it. Adding Git flow to the GitHub and creating Bamboo plans for this continuous integration, If we can automate that, we're going to, again, that's another place where things get like copy-pasted. A human has to do all that, and it's introducing more places for human error to occur. And the last thing we'll do is start scheduling our production deployments automatically. Right now, we do our releases for our standard maintenance window once a week, and that involves filling out forms. It's, again, another place where copy-pasting can break something. You put in the wrong date, the wrong time. And so it's really a place where if we could automatically have those forms filled out for the next maintenance window because as soon as something gets checked into that master branch. And so again, it's really all about just automating as much as you can to reduce the human error, look for places where you're doing something over and over and over again, and it's not a place where a human needs to make those choices. So that is all that I have. So if you have any questions, you can email me there, or I'll be at the Agile Community of Practice tomorrow. Thank you.